Okay, shall I start with engineering material? See, engineering materials are classified as metallic, metals and non-metals. Metals are again classified as ferrous and non-ferrous, and whereas non-metallics are classified as organic and inorganic. See, wherever you have iron content, those metals are called as ferrous. And where you don't have content of iron, means ferrous, those metals are called as non-ferrous materials. So if the percentage, see it, if the percentage of iron is less than 1.5%, then we call it as steel. And if the percentage of iron is more than 1.5%, then we call it as cast iron. So these are the different types of steels and different types of cast irons. These are non-ferrous. These are organic. Organic is what we get naturally. Inorganic are materials like sand, minerals, ceramics, graphite, all these things will come under inorganic material. Now we'll see the definition of everything in detail. See, a ceramic is a solid material comprising an inorganic compound of metal, non-metal, or iron or covalent bonds. See, the example of ceramic is our pots. That is called earthenware, and procleane is dinner sets. There will be some difference between the quality of dinner sets and quality of your pots. So the pots will be considered as earthenware, and dinner sets are considered as proclaim. And if you see some statues made with ceramic and all, those things are also called as proclines only. Okay, next one is composite material. If you are combining two or more materials and making a new material which is having the properties of both the materials, is called as composite materials. And now while taking your class, I have given you some example. See, cement, sand and concrete, three of them got three different properties, but when you mix three of them, you get a new property. So that will have higher strength than the materials which you are getting, means which you are mixing. Okay, that is about composite material. Next one is heat treatment. Heat treatment is heating of material above its recrystallization temperature. So we have different types of heat treatments. First one is annealing. Annealing is heating the material and cooling it slowly to room temperature is annealing. Next one is normalizing. Normalizing is also cooling, but it is a controlled cooling. It means in case of annealing, we just cool to room temperature, but in case of normalizing, we don't have that type of cooling also. The cooling will be more slow so that there will be change in the grain structure and material will become more harder. And next one is hardening. Hardening is heating material to very high temperature and suddenly cooling it, dipping into some oil or some water or some other fluid, is called hardening. Carbonizing is heating the material under the presence of carbon. It can be charcoal or carbon monoxide, so that the particles of carbon will come and get merged in between these components and material will get strength. Okay, that is about carbonizing. Nitriding is also same thing, but here in case instead of carbon making heat treatment in presence of carbon, here we make in presence of nitrogen. So here what happens is the nitrogen particles will come and get placed in between the atoms of the component which you are taking. So all these things are to increase the strength of material. So these are different types of heat treatments. That is about uh, the second part. It means engineering materials heat treatments. And next is riveted joint. So this is a rivet. The top part, the circular part, is called as head. The bottom part is called as tail, and the area between the head and the tail is called as body or shank. So now the diameter of this uh, rivet will depend upon the thickness of the plates which you are taking. So these are the plates and this is the rivet. You'll have two dies, one die at the bottom and one die at the top. the bottom die is called as backup die and top die is called as forming die. So backup die will the rivet will already have some circular shape. That circular shape will be mounted in backup die. And the forming die is used to, means when we beat with forming die, the rivet, the tail part of the rivet will take circular shape. So these rivets are permanent joints. It means, see, we have two types of joints, temporary joint and permanent joint. Temporary joint is whenever you don't want the joint, you can remove it, like your screw, nut and bolt. Okay. But in case of rivet joint, if once you make the riveted joint and if you want to remove the riveted joint, then you have to break the rivet and then take it off. So that's why riveted joints are called as permanent joints. So we have different terminologies which we use. Margin, chain riveting, zigzag riveting, row pitch and diagonal pitch. I'll show you the figure and explain you clearly. Okay. See, the distance between this edge, the edge of the rivet to the center of the nearest rivet is called its margin. Edge of the rivet to the center of rivet is called its margin. Next is chain riveting. See, whatever the figure you are finding here is chain riveting. You have rivets beside each other like this. Okay, this is chain riveting. Next one is zigzag riveting. In case of zigzag riveting, see, if one riveted is placed here and another is here, in the next row, the riveted joint will be placed in between these two. You have this rivet, and if in this row, if rivet is placed here, then we call it as zigzag riveting. Okay. Next one is row pitch. See, I told you we have two types of riveting, chain riveting and zigzag riveting. So in case of chain riveting, the pitch row is 0.8p, and in case of zigzag riveting, it's 0.6p. See, this is chain riveting. Here the distance should be more. So this is 0.8, 0.8p. P is the pitch. Pitch is the distance between two rivets. Okay, here the distance will be more, so it is 0.8. But in case of zigzag, if it will be like this, so rivet will be here, so it can be 0.6p. Next one is diagonal pitch. Diagonal pitch is the distance between this rivet to the cross rivet, the rivet which is at the which is at its diagonal. So distance between these two rivets is called its diagonal pitch. And now see, when we are making a butt joint, see, we have two different types of joints here, lap joint and butt joint. Lap joint is when one component will overlap on the another component. See, for example, if you have a straight plate like this and if another plate is overlapping over this, and if you are making a rivet, then we call it as lap joint. And whatever the joint you are finding here is butt joint. So one rivet will get over, means these two rivets will place side by side, and we use another plate over these two plates in order to join these plates. See here, if you look at this figure, you have, see, 1.5d, 1.5d. See, this component, this plate is different and this plate is different. Over this we have kept another cover plate and we are riveting this. So this is also called as single rivet butt joint. See, single riveted, single strap butt joint. See, if you make only one strap, then the thickness of strap is 1.125 T, where T is the thickness of plate. But if you are using two cover plates, one at the top and one at the bottom, then thickness of the plate can be 0.75 T. Okay, so these are the formulas. If they ask you, if they give you the thickness of the plate, and if they are asking you to design all these things, then you have to remember these formulas and design the plate. And we have already solved a few problems in the class regarding this. If you have your class notes, please refer the notes. If not, just try to remember these formulas. Try to remember these formulas, and this is sufficient for solving the problem if you get in the exam. Okay, what is margin, what is chain riveting, what is row pitch. PR equals to 0.8p, PR equals to 0.6p for zigzag. And see, you have some formulas in the figure also. And thickness of the plate is 1.125 T, and thickness of, if you have two strips, thickness of plate is cover plate is T2 equals to 0.75 T. Just remember these formulas which you are finding in this slide. That is sufficient for designing the rivet. Next is caulking and fillering. Caulking and fillering are similar operations. The only difference is in caulking you will have a smaller size of tool, and in fillering you will have a bigger size of tool. So here what we do is, after finishing the riveting operation, we beat the edges of the plate so that if there is any gap between both the plates, it will get closed. The reason for this type of caulking and fillering, means this type of operation, is if you are making riveting for pressure vessels, the pressure will come out from these gaps. So in order to avoid these things, what we do is, soon after finishing the rivet, we go for caulking or fillering for closing the gaps between the rivets. So this is operation mostly used in boilers. Okay. As I told, lap joint and butt joint. Single riveted is where you have only one row of rivet. Double riveted is you have 2 rows of rivet. Chain riveting is what you have seen in the figure. Zigzag riveting is where you have 2 rivets and another rivet at the center. And diamond rivet is, see, for example, in first row if you have 5, in second row you will have 4 rivets, in third row you have 3 rivets, then 2, then 1. So like this, if rivets are arranged in its decreasing order, then we call it as diamond riveting. Okay. Yeah, we'll see this. Rivet failures. The first type of failure is tearing of plate at an edge. See, this is a figure of edge tearing. A joint may fail due to tearing of plate at an edge. This is avoided by keeping margin M is equals to 1.5D, where D is the diameter of the rivet. So if D is the diameter of the rivet, if you maintain the margin as 1.5D, you can eliminate this. Now, if your riveted joint is at the edge, there are more chances of tearing of the plate. Next, tearing of plate across the rows of the rivet. If the distance, the pitch distance between both the rows are small, then this type of defect will occur. See, due to the tensile stress of the main plate or cover plate may tear off across a row of rivet. See, if this is a rivet and if it is getting tear across this, then this is second type of rivet failure. We call it as tearing of plate across the row of rivet. Next one, shearing of the rivet. See, you look at this plate, and when there is movement between both the plates, the rivet which is in the middle is getting broken. So this is called shearing of rivets. The plates which are connected by the rivet exert tensile stress on the rivet, and if the rivets are unable to resist the stress, they are sheared off. See, here you can see different types of joints. First one is lap joint. See, one plate is getting overlapped with another one. Next one is butt joint with single cover plate, means single strap, and this is a butt joint with double strap. Next one is crushing. Crushing is both plates will exert pressure, and sometimes the rivet will get crushed. It means it will get bent and it will come out from the hole. So when hole size is becoming larger and larger, this type of crushing will happen. See, look at the definitions. Sometimes the rivet do not actually shear off under the tensile stress but are crushed. The rivet hole becomes of an oval shape, and hence the joint becomes loose. The failure of rivet in such a manner is also known as bearing failure. So now, if 2 plates are moving, there will be no failure of, nothing will get broken, but this will get crushed and it will come out. The rivet will get crushed and it will come out. So this is the fourth type of defect. And last is the efficiency calculation of the rivet. Efficiency calculation is strength of the riveted joint. What strength you have to the riveted joint by strength of the plate. What the strength you got to the plate. So this is about the efficiency of the riveted joint. Okay. So that's it. Any doubts still here? Hello. Okay, should I wind up the meeting?